Hello everyone, welcome back to episode 5 of the WarmJuniper Knits podcast. Today is October 17th. It's a Monday, so this is not my usual recording day. This is not actually my usual recording week. I'm coming back after a little bit of a hiatus, kind of unintentionally happening because traveling has been happening. But if you're here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. If you're brand new, I'm happy to have you. This is a knitting and spinning podcast primarily, occasionally other dabbles of crafting, but mostly I spin and knit. And I'm from Central Oregon, and right now it is super, super wet and rainy. We've been having major storms all the last week, so the Pacific Northwest in general has been getting just slammed. The East Coast gets hurricanes, the West Coast gets the remnants of typhoons, so we get nice big windstorms. Nothing quite as dramatic as what you see on the East Coast necessarily, but it definitely makes our normally very, very dry climate out here in Eastern Oregon much wetter. And considering that I grew up in the Portland area, it feels really homey to me, so this feels just like exactly like October. Maybe a little bit more extreme than usual, but I'm actually pretty pleased with the weather. But you didn't come here to listen to me talk about the weather. We came to talk about knitting. First, administrative stuff. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as WarmJuniper. And we also have a Ravelry group. I mostly just use it to post show notes in, so if you're interested in any of the things that I mention in today's podcast, or I have mentioned in any of the prior episodes, the show notes are in the Ravelry discussion board. So you can stop by and introduce yourself and check those things out there. That is just WarmJuniper Knits. If you search for it in the groups tab, it'll take you right to it. So that's administrative stuff out of the way. Let's jump right in. I do have some finished objects this week, and I am counting them as finished because they are bound off, and most of them are blocked even. Wow. But I have been knitting like crazy on my Vivid blanket, making squares. So I've got all the colors represented now. Now I have to go back and I need to make 2 more of each color, but I'm super, super duper pleased. I love looking at that stack, which, by the way, okay, this is the difference between unblocked. This is an unblocked square, and I would say that is, just judging by about how long my hand is, this is probably about 6.5 inches square. When I block them out, they block out to a full 9 inches, and you get that difference. This just cracks me up every time. I mean, the lace wants to open up, and this yarn is not extremely heavy. I mean, it's fairly light worsted. It might even be a DK, actually. I don't have the ball band by me at the moment, but it blocks out to this real nice, open, gorgeous pattern. So, but having these unblocked ones on my stack is cracking me up. So I've got these, which are all blocked. This is the Fibro Natura Gentle Merino. I've talked about this many times, but it's actually working up just absolutely perfectly for this project, and I couldn't be more pleased. And I have so many yarn tails, which I'm trying not to get them tangled, but I'm going to be using these to seam them up together at the end of the project. So anyway, those are finished. I now have, like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. So that is half the blanket done, which means I'm on track for a baby that's going to be due in January. Early January, I think. So I'm half done with the blankie, and I actually have another one of these, which I just need to do the garter ridge on, and then I'll have another one blocked off. So we are making good progress on that. So do I get to count this as 6 finished objects? Because that's where I was last week. I think I had just done the blue ones and 1 pink one. Not last week. 3 weeks ago. Anyway, I'm pretty excited. So that's really my only finished thing, and if you really want to be particular about it, this wouldn't be like a full finished object, but like I said, that's why I'm counting it. That's my finished object for the week. Works in progress. So this is going to be a decent chunk of segment because it's been like 3 weeks since I podcasted because I've been traveling so much. Oh, look, and they came off my needles. That's exciting. Okay, I'll just be gentle with them and try not to lose more stitches in the meantime. These are my husband's Jimi Hendrix socks, if you recall. He wanted a pair of socks based on an album cover from Jimi Hendrix, which was this psychedelic electric pink and orange and brown and black and electric blue. And what I ended up finding was some orange yarn, which was unlabeled, has no name. I don't even know the fiber content actually, but it's a fairly heavy, whoops, yep, there I went and just pulled out more stitches. Whoops. Fairly heavy fingering weight actually, and I'm guessing based on the feel that it's got some nylon in it, they'll do a swatch and block it and make sure that it'll survive the washing machine before I give it to him. But anyway, these are the Jimi socks. These are, this is the blueberry waffle pattern, which is just like an alternated rib. It's free patterned on Ravelry, super simple. And it's behaving really well with the orange yarn. I'm actually like super excited about that. It's not pooling in any particularly weird way. I mean, you get a little bit of flashing just because of the variation, but it's not like one section's all orange and one section's all pink and one section's all brown. You get a nice muddled effect in that. And it's a little bit brighter in person than it is showing up on the camera, but my light in here is really weird because it's like 5:30 in the afternoon. And the top is, I can't remember. I'll put it down there so you can see what it is. But this was a mini skein that I got at the Oregon Block and Fiber Festival to do the heels and cuff, heel, and toe. Which for the record, it's a lot thinner, a lot lighter weight fingering than the orange stuff is. So, and I had almost the whole sock knit, and then he was trying it on, and it was just, it would have been fine. It would have been fine, but I knew that it could be better, and rather than knit 2 socks that mostly fit, I decided to knit 2 socks that actually fit. So I ripped back, and what I needed to do was add more length in the heel flap. I think this is 20 rows, and I think I had it at like 15 originally. So it was just short enough that it was like pulling up, and I could tell that if he yanked on him a lot, which he probably would have, then he would have worn out the heel really fast. So I ripped back and I added more stitches to the gusset. And then I also, when I did the heel turn, I switched yarns. So technically if I was doing this, if I was really using this for my whole alternate, hi cat, then this part of the heel would be blue also, but I know that I wanted the stronger yarn on the bottom. So there it is there. I don't know what happened when I picked up stitches. I hate picking up stitches on a gusset. I really do, because I either get these humongous gaps where the 2 V's, you have your V stitches going along the side of the gusset, and then you pick up under them, you pick up the knit, and cute cat. You can't see them, but they're snuggled up next to me. Anyway, I end up with these big pulling, and it just looks super stretched, so I tried to pick up extra stitches to reduce the gap, and now it's just messy and whatever. I'm not ripping them back again because it is fine, but it's always kind of messy, but especially since the other side looks so nice and neat. I mean, that's exactly what you want to see at this side. So nobody look at the left side of the sock, okay? So these are the Jimi socks. I'm about to go up the foot again with them, and this is the only one that I've got. Although I have to say, this is my first time knitting with the fixed high sharps. These are a US 1 2.25 high sharp fixed circular 40-inch needle, and I love them. They've been my favorite needle for a while, but I usually knit with the interchangeables and not the fixed, but super great. So, one sock, work in progress. Second work in progress is my Ease sweater. This is a pattern by Alicia Plummer. I talked about it in my very first episode. And what had happened is I had knit a pretty good chunk of the body, like probably down to a couple of, I don't know, 5 or 6 inches below my bust. And I had done the increases wrong, so it was huge. And I mean, you want the sweater to have ease, that's the whole point, but this was humongous. And I was a little bit afraid that I was going to run out of yarn, and I didn't want to, I'm going to be cutting it kind of close. And I didn't want to risk it, so I ripped it back. I ripped it all the way back to the armpit and redid the increases and decreases properly and finished the body. So the body is fully knit. This is unblocked. And yeah, I super forgot that this yarn is so soft. This is the Stonehenge Fiber Mill Shepherd's Worsted. I think that's what it is. And it's not a superwash. It's just, yeah, I think it's just straight merino, but it's so soft. I mean, this is easily next to skin soft, and it doesn't look, some yarns, when they get real soft, they get kind of frayed looking almost, like they look fragile, and this is not. I mean, I would have thought that it would have been a lot more rustic looking just based on kind of how the plies look, but it's not. This is, well, let's face it, the light in here sucks today. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it just wants to be blue. It's a little bit greener than this. It's a little bit more teal. I alternated skeins. My first skein ran out right about probably in your area. I mean, it would have like cut right across the front. So I alternated skeins there, and you can't even tell. The second skein I had to alternate was like right in the middle of the ribbing. And I don't know if you kind of see, there's a teeny tiny bit of a line, like right there, where you can tell that where I didn't bother to alternate. I was not going to bother to alternate for 2 inches of ribbing. Yeah, I just do not care that much. I would have cared if it was higher up in the body, but this is like right on the hem. But you can see, and I didn't expect it, honestly, because these were all, I had overdyed these skeins. They used to be really bright blue. And I overdyed them with like a deep forest green, and I got this lovely teal color. But I had just done all 4 skeins in one big pot like 2 years ago. And I didn't expect there to be that much variation in them, because there's not a ton of variation just in, it's not super tonal in the body. All this to say, you can definitely tell where the skeins switched. So that's good to know, because I will be doing the sleeves soon. I'll be picking up for the sleeves. And I know I'm going to have to mix my skeins this, because I've only got, well, this is my brand new skein. This is the one that I switched to do the last little bit of ribbing. Still doesn't want to do the color correctly. That's okay. And then one more in the cupboard. So I only have the sleeves left to do, which, I mean, I don't have the longest arms ever. So I think that's probably going to be fine. I've got almost 2 whole skeins left. So, and if it becomes a 3/4 length sweater, that's fine with me too, because my sweater's always in shoved up anyway. That'll be fine. But this will be my second sweater ever. I'm only knit one other sweater, and it was a cardigan. It was the Gramps cardigan by Thea Coleman. No, Oatmeal Stout. Chocolate Stout? Chocolate Stout. Thea Coleman's Chocolate Stout. This big, huge, like, really grandpa-y cardigan that I made out of Malabrigo last year. So, this I had and started before I had started the yarn for that one. So I feel like it's really time to finish this. And I know that if I just sit down, I can do the sleeves in probably a week. I mean, I re-knit the whole body. This is just plain old stockinette with some increases and increases and decreases on the side for shaping. So I did that in like 5 days, maybe less, because I'd already done all of the increasing for the raglan. So the sleeves can't be that bad. Anyway, work in progress number 2. Work in progress number 3 is in this bag, which is another one I made. I have, oh wait, look, another blanket square on the needles. I'm not going to talk about that too much. We already know what it is, what they look like. But, so I kind of thought that I would make myself a hat. I don't know really why. I mean, okay, yes, I know why, because I do need a new winter hat. I made myself a stovetop hat by Tin Can Knits last year out of leftover yarn from the chocolate stout cardigan I was just talking about, and then I lost it in like a week, which sucked because it was like the perfect hat, the best one that I've knit for myself. I think I have a couple of others that are fine. I just really liked the yarn, and it's a neutral color too, so it kind of went with everything that I owned. And I also have a socket hat that's bright orange, which I love me some orange. Like everything that I own right next to me has some orange in it, which is kind of ridiculous that that's worked out how it is. But seriously, 2 project bags, 2 skeins of yarn, my spinning project, which I'll show you next, the Daybreak, which I'll show you next, it's all orange. Why is everything that I own orange? I know it's like October and it's pumpkin-y, but like I just accumulate orange things. I really like it as a color. However, it looks ridiculous on me because I'm freaking orange, right? And an orange hat on an orange head tends to look a little bit, and I can't wear it with, a lot of my clothes are black or dark gray. And if you wear orange with that, you sort of look like a walking Halloween costume. So I needed something other than an orange hat. So naturally, my thought process is to go and try to make myself one that's bright green, which is this. So this is just some Cascade 220 stash yarn. Had it for a while. I think I originally thought I was going to make a baby sweater out of it. But anyway, I thought, let's try to make a hat. And then I thought, well, I liked the stovetop hat so much last time, I'll try and do that again. And then I ended up with this. So this is as far as I got the other day in the car knitting on this before I realized that I'd screwed up the cables. Wait, okay, there we go. So this, the hat is, I mean, it's ribbing, and then it's got this texture stitch, and then you have the cable panel in the front with the, you know, cable running up the side. Then you've got this neat one in the center, which this would look much better if I hadn't screwed it up, but I did. Also, I mean, this was just kind of doomed from the start because Cascade 220, in my opinion, is a really light worsted, and this pattern is, it needs something a little heavier, I mean, I just think that's pretty thin for a worsted weight. I mean, that's about the same weight as those blanket squares, and they strike me as more like a DK. Anyway, I was knitting at this as way too loose a gauge. Like you can see all the way through the stitches. I can see myself in the camera looking through the stitch, which I should not be able to do. It's not going to do you any good to have a hat that the wind can blow straight through anyway, which I know is kind of inevitable with knitting, but I mean, come on. So the texture stitch doesn't even look that nice, I don't think, in this color, in the way the yarn is working up with it. It's perfectly fine yarn. There's nothing wrong with it. This hat was not meant to be a wasabi green textured cabled hat. That's going to get frogged. And this is a little bit ridiculous because this is my 4th winter in Bend, and it gets cold. Not like Canada cold, but decently cold here. I mean, we spend most of the winter below freezing most days, from December through February. I mean, it does not get above 40 degrees, hardly ever. And we'll frequently get below like 10. So, I mean, we go negative occasionally, not for very long, but still, I mean, it's freaking cold. 10 degrees, you want a hat. And one would think also gloves, but I haven't lived here for, like I said, 4 years, and I still have not made myself a pair of winter gloves, which is just absurd. I've been wearing like the Dollar Tree ones, you know, that you can get that are just like the stretchy ones that are everywhere, which again, they're fine, but they don't really insulate. Do not eat the yarn. No. We have, yeah, he's down here chewing on my yarn. You need a twerp. Okay. Right, gloves. So I need to make myself a pair of decent gloves. I'm going to adjust this again, sorry. Yeah. Need a pair of decent gloves this winter. I am throwing down the gauntlet to myself. I'm not going to go another season freezing in cotton gloves. So I will not. And I think this green will probably be good for that because it's just like, I mean, it's Cascade 220. It's good workhorse yarn. It's not delicate. I'm not going to feel bad if they get a little bit dirty and superwash, and I can chuck them in the washing machine and all that good stuff. So this is destined to be frogged and maybe becoming a pair of gloves. And if you have pattern suggestions, like I've knit plain old like straight stockinette winter gloves before for other members of my family, and it's freaking boring. If I'm going to make the gloves, I would like them to be kind of interesting or have some kind of like cable or texture. You would think I would learn my lesson. Listen to me talking about this. This needs to be knit on like a 3. What am I thinking doing a 7? If you have pattern suggestions that you really like, I'd love to hear them, because right now I have no idea, and I don't want to knit another plain one. Right, so that was my 3rd work in progress. My 4th work in progress is not really a 4th work in progress, but I'll talk about it a little bit in acquisitions. But for now, let's talk about what's on my wheel. So I think I showed you last time. Hang on just a sec. I really wanted to get the swatch to show you. So I showed you last time that I had plied up a sample of the Huckleberry Knits fiber, the bamboo silk blend that I have been picking away at forever. And gosh, the light in here is not going to do it justice at all. But what I did was I knit up my ply sample and got this. And it's probably a light worsted weight, 2 ply. And I was expecting, because if you've been following along for a little while, you know that my trials with 2 plying traditionally has not gone well for me. And I surprised myself, not only because I managed to pull it off somewhat decently, but also that I really, really love the fabric. I've never had my own hand spun that knit up into something this nice. Like, this looks like actual knitted fabric. It doesn't look like super lumpy and bumpy and crazy, which is fine if that's what you're going for, but that's not what I was trying for this time, if you get me. But it's like you can make something with this. I'm so excited, and I love the way that the colors kind of melt into each other. I wasn't trying to do any kind of color matching. I was just letting them come off the bobbins as they wanted. But, and of course the color in here is terrible, but it's this kind of muted pink, and then it gets into more of a golden orange on the bottom, and I was like, okay, obviously I have to stick with this plan because I want a whole lot of this. So I finished pulling up the rest of it, which I have not taken off the bobbins yet because I've been doing other things. But here is the first bobbin, and you can kind of see, even though I wasn't really trying to color match, that I did get some areas where the colors did kind of blend together nicely. So I think I will have definite like long gradient stripes, not gradients, but that you will be able to see the striping in whatever finished object this becomes. So right again, there's that. And then the other, this is my leftovers. And this is actually, so two different plying techniques on this one. This one, most of this is all from, I had 2 bobbins full and I just plied them straight together. My wheel has a built-in lazy cape, so I just took my 2 strands, ran them onto a fresh bobbin, and then just used the lazy cape that was on there until I ran out on one. Then rather than try to weigh out my remainder and get them even again, and that was going to take forever. So what I did instead was I took the bobbin off and I ran the single onto my ball winder and made a center pull ball, and then I plied from the inside and the outside of the ball. And you can see here is the very last end that there's a loop there, because what you get at the end of that is a loop, because you've got your 2 ends and this is just one long piece of yarn that you're stringing together. So this felt a little bit different to me, I think because of that technique, but also because by the time that I had gotten to this part of the bobbin, my spinning was a little bit finer. So this whole section is just a little bit, I think it's a little bbit lighter weight than this, which is fine. Also, it's much tighter on the bobbin. That might just be because of where it is. So this has got a lot on it. This is 4 ounces total. And because I was applying it back on itself, there was not quite as much of the color matching as before, so this one's a little bit more marled. So it'll be really interesting to see when I put them onto one, Nilly Naughty and make a skein out of it, what it'll look like. So hopefully we'll get around to that in the next week or so that I can think about what I want to make with it, because I have not a clue what kind of yardage I've got. I'm doing such a great job of showing you what I made. Wouldn't you like to actually see it instead of just me waving it around? Okay. Hey, that's pretty good color there. Yeah. All right. So that's what's on my wheel this week. And now, let me check my show notes. I do have a few things for what's new. I tripped and fell on some yarn, which I feel kind of silly doing because I just went to this festival and bought a bunch of stuff and I've got things to use, but yarn happened. And really pretty orange yarn happened because apparently I have no self-control in the face of things that are orange. So first of all, let me talk about my Daybreak. So this is Daybreak, a Stephen West pattern, and wow, okay, so let me preface this by saying that I really, really, really wanted to love it the way that it was, which is this gold in the blue. I want to love the gold in the blue. I do not love the gold in the blue. And I don't know what it is, because individually I think they're gorgeous. I mean, where is the skein? This is some Malabrigo sock, and this is, everything I would ever want out of a blue in my life. It's wonderful. However, it was not the effect in this shawl that I wanted, and I have a history of starting shawls and not finishing them and leaving them to languish and then ripping them out because I changed my mind. And I really want this finished object for winter particularly, because I want to be able to wrap it around my coat and to be able to pull it up. Like, I really want the big freaking shawl. Excuse me. If you guys had any idea what my actual language sounds like most of the time, I'm trying really hard here. Right, so I want the big finished object, and I want to love it, and I didn't love this. So I am not too far into the striping sequence, as you can see, and because I am in love with that blue, I know it'll get used for something else. So I was kind of on the lookout for something that would go with this gold, butter, and this has some hints of green in it, which is, I don't know how well you can see. There's a spot right there. This is the Charles sock. So I wanted something that would go with this. maybe a little bit more subtly, something that was like my colors anyway. So I walk into my local yarn shop the other day, which is always a prelude to falling into yarn, which is why I don't actually go in there very often. Because if I'm there, I want to be able to buy something. I don't want to just sit and loiter, although I know they would be fine with it because they're fantastic. Our local yarn shop is amazing for a town this small. Anyway, I wander in and I saw this. This is Manos de Uruguay Alegria, and the color is Butia, I think. So that's backwards, but look at this. This is every color I could ever ask for in a skein of yarn. If I were a skein of yarn, it would be this one. This is me in a skein. This is gold and this cranberry color, which is rich, and the forest greens and the browns and the oranges. And I'm so in love with this. Like, I just want to hold it and put it in a case and stare at it. Except what I want even more than that is to cake it up and use it in my daybreak. So I think, here's the, this is going to pull out. Here's the gold. And here's this. And they look super washed out. And also, I look like my eyes are like black, which they are not. Don't record in the late afternoon, guys, if you've got a setup like mine, which is like 4 lamps in your bedroom. Don't be me. Anyway, so this is going to become the new contrast for this. These are like so much closer. This is the same color yellow. Why they're not looking like that, I could not tell you. But I think this is going to be the contrast stripes for my daybreak instead of the blue. I don't have a ton to rip out. That's, 6 stripes out of something like more than 20. So I've got lots and lots to do still with that. So I didn't get too far. Rambling. I've been kind of waiting to start this until I could show this on the podcast. And now that I have, this is going to get caked up like tomorrow so that I can start working on this again. So that is acquisition number 1. See what I mean? This is like me, but yarn. My husband were in here, he would be like, what is the matter with you? Anyway, so that's 1. And that was Manos de Uruguay, like I said, in the Alegria base, which is 75 merino, 25 polyamide. So pretty standard sock yarn. My other acquisition was actually my very first Etsy purchase. I have not purchased yarn from Etsy before, partly because I never remember to set alarms for some of the updates. Like, I've never bothered, really. I've never tried, so maybe if I could have, I would have. All this to say, I have not bought from Etsy before, but I've been following on Instagram, Little Bean and Me. I think that's her Instagram name. If it's not, I'll put it down here. But she has a shop called Little Bean Loves, which is hand-painted yarn. The shop is littlebeancrochet.etsy.com, and she does a lot of Harry Potter-inspired yarn. She has a series for the different tree woods, so you can get yarn from the Whomping Willow or the Elder Tree. She's got a green one that's called Troll Bogies, which is actually kind of similar to this. Really clever, gorgeous colored yarns. She also has one that's based on the exploding TARDIS from the end of the Doctor Who season 5, which I am a mega Doctor Who fan. Someday maybe I'll show that I have a TARDIS collection, and it took great self-restraint to not purchase the exploding TARDIS yarn, and I really don't know why I didn't. Maybe the little budgeting me angel on my shoulder was yelling at me already because I was buying yarn that I didn't need, but I wanted. And anyway, all this to say, she also did one for Mount. The colorway is called Mount Doom. which is from the Lord of the Rings. And Paul and I are major Lord of the Rings fans. He, even more so than I, this was like his go-to comfort movie through the entirety of while we were in college. And he can quote the thing, like all three of them, pretty much from start to finish. It's his fantasy epic of choice. So she dyed some yarn, and it's called Mount Doom, and here it is. And it goes from the coal, dark black, into a gray, into the yellow, into this bright yellow, into where's the red? Into this bright red, fiery red. So it's the volcano, and I was like, well, obviously I need that. I must have it. And this is going to be, I justified it by saying that this was going to be socks for Paul. So after I finish the Jimmy socks, I'll get some Mountain Doom on the needles. And there's the label. And I was so excited to catch this because it was after her update by like 2 days, and she happened to have one left. I was pretty stoked that it was still there. So, and also I was just say she got this in the mail like right away. It still took for like 8 days to get here because USPS, I don't know what it is. I think it's something about our location, but things arrive in Portland from the East Coast in like 3 days. And then it takes them 2 days to go from Portland to Bend, which is a 3-hour drive. And then it sits in the holding facility in Bend for another 2 days. This happens all the time with packages that get shipped here. Buy things from Amazon, they go to Portland like immediately, and then it takes another 4 days to make the trip from Portland to my front door, which I don't understand. But she got this in the mail like right away, so thank you. I was happy to, I was ecstatic to finally receive it. I was so stoked to see this in person, so I was really glad when I got here. So yes, so this is my second acquisition. It'll probably take me a little while to get to this one because I also have the graffiti yarn from the Knitted Wit. That'll be my next pair of socks. I figure I'm going to alternate. I'll go pair of socks for Paul, pair of socks for me, socks for Paul, socks for me. So a quarter of the way through his latest pair, so it'll be a while before I get back around to that, but pretty excited about it. Let's see. That was what's new. What's next? I do have some adjacent projects or things that I'm kind of thinking about knitting. I talked a little bit about that already in that I need some mittens. So mittens will probably get cast on this week if I can find a pattern that I like. I would like a new winter hat for myself, considering the failure of an experiment that green hat was. So don't know what I'm going to do there. I have a skein of baby alpaca from Shibui Knits that I've had in my stash for ages. And I think it's very fuzzy. It's light and fuzzy, and I think that's going to be a hat. Either something with really big loose cables. Holy Locatelli did one, a cable hat a little while ago. I think it's called Cozy Head, Happy Head, something like that. But it's got really wide cables in a very drapey yarn that I think would look really nice with that. Or a Hinagiku hat, I'm reading that right, by 87 Knit. Free pattern on Ravelry, which is a texture stitch. I think it's a daisy stitch, which I don't know how well that would work in yarn that is really drapey, but some of the other people who have made the pattern on Ravelry have done it in really fuzzy, soft looking yarns, and it looks nice, and I like hats with a lot of texture on them, so maybe that. Also, oh my goodness, so I fell in love with the pattern this week. Fell in love, and that is the Yoga Shawl by Andrea Mowry. So this is it's kind of a neat pattern. So it's basically this big rectangle, and then she has got some texturing on the sides, and then I don't have the pattern yet, for the record. This is just what I can surmise from the pictures. But then she's got it so that there's the button placement is such that you can like rebutton this shawl and wear it in a bazillion different ways, and it looks incredible. Just, I mean, you can wear it like wrapped double. She made a video of all the different ways that you could do that. I'll link that in my show notes because I was just like, I need this in my life. Obviously, this is the wardrobe piece that I am missing. It could be like a poncho. It can be more, you can knit it, button it up so it's almost like a sweater. I mean, it's just super clever for a way to take what is a relatively simple piece of knitting and then just tweak the construction enough that you have all of these like infinite possibilities. And she knitted out a Brooklyn tweed shelter, I think, a Brooklyn tweed yarn. So something that would be really really airy and lofty, because that's a woolen spun yarn, so it's going to be like super duper lightweight and very insulating and extremely warm, and I just really want one. But also I have to recognize that it is a ginormous rectangle knit out of stockinette stitch, so it would be something of an investment both in time and in yarn to pull that off. But that's definitely on my wish list, my to knit list. So that might be like my Christmas cast on or something. Maybe I can talk my husband to buy me the yarn for it for Christmas. So yeah, meanwhile, my heart pitter-pats for the yoga shawl. All right then, well, I think that's everything that I have to show for this update. I can't decide if I talked a lot or a little or really fast, or if this is going to show up to be around my usual length, but thanks for sticking around if you did watch the whole thing. Like I said at the beginning, we do have a Ravelry group. You feel free to drop by and introduce yourself. Otherwise, have a spectacular next couple of weeks, and I'll see you around.